Popo? You guys see that? It's the kind of stuff I put up with every day from Poe. Popo, come back. Come here. Popo, come back. Okay, well. Everybody say hello to Daisy. She doesn't want to be held, so I'm gonna let her go. Daisy do.
Hey y'all, I thought I would tell you about my weekend at Mythcon. A lot of you know that I went there this past weekend. I was in Milwaukee. It was a really great time. I thought that it would be fun for me to do just like a little sit down, like story time ramble about what happened at Mythcon and what I did. So here goes. I wrote some notes on my iPhone, so I'll be referencing those to make sure that I kind of just keep track of what I was thinking and make sure I say what I wanted to say. So I'm just going to start off with overall my thoughts on Mythcon. I thought the organizers were really nice and personable people. I really appreciated getting to meet most of them and talk to them about the event and about the speakers, and they were just super nice, and I really appreciated them and everything they did to make this event happen and to keep it safe, because there was a bomb threat on Saturday that we had to evacuate for at one point, which was wild. My first bomb threat, I think, aside from maybe like once in high school or something. Okay, yeah, and so yeah, they were great. The speakers, the vast majority of the speakers were super nice people, really down to earth and really easy to talk to, which I thought was awesome. And then there was also just content creators who were there who were not necessarily speaking, and they were also really awesome and down to earth, and got to meet a lot of people that I have followed on YouTube for quite some time, and so that was cool. It was kind of weird to meet people like that though in real life. Like, it's surreal, but not like in a bad way. So let's see. Okay, so also the moderators, they did a great job. I really appreciated everything the moderators did to keep things going. Especially the best moderator by far was the moderator of the discussion on gender equality between the two Karens. It's Karen, one second. You can go on the Mythcon website if you want to see their names, okay? But I do have to tell you guys the name of my favorite moderator, Melissa Chen. She was amazing. She was so funny and did such a good job moderating and keeping the conversation going between the two Karens, and I really enjoyed it. And I was thinking a lot during the two Karens debate, the debate on feminism. It was so there was one Karen who was like the anti-feminist and one Karen who's like the feminist. So they were talking about whether or not we have achieved gender equality in the United States. The anti-feminist Karen was coming at it from a perspective of, if you look at a lot of situations such as child custody agreements, whether or not male victims of sexual assault are believed, whether male victims of domestic violence are believed, things like that. When you look at that kind of stuff, you start to see that gender inequality hurts men and women. Well, from her viewpoint, it hurts men and benefits women. I would argue that it hurts men and women both, personally. That's just me. And then the other Karen was making the argument. She was talking about, I mean, she was making a lot of common sense points and very obvious feminist points, if you ask me. But the other Karen felt, I don't know. It was a good debate. I really enjoyed what they had to say. Well, I'm not going to talk more about it, though. Let's see. I got to talk to both of them individually, actually, about their talk, and I asked them what they thought about this. I feel like there's a false dichotomy set up between feminists and anti-feminists, and so you have feminists arguing against what they view to be anti-feminist talking points, and anti-feminists arguing against what they view to be feminist talking points, but they're not arguing against what the other side actually says, or at least not what individuals they're addressing actually say. And so it sometimes feels like they're shouting over each other and not talking to each other. But that wasn't what happened at the debate, and I thought that was really cool. I really liked seeing them actually converse, and they agreed on more than they disagreed on, honestly. I felt like they might not agree with my assessment of that, though. I don't know. So after the Karens, I left for lunch, and I wandered over to this live music performance that was happening. This band called Cola was playing. They had musicians all day, but I only stayed for Cola. And then I went to go get lunch at this bar that was across the river. I love that there's a river in Milwaukee, by the way. Really appreciate that. So yeah, and then after I got back from lunch, there was the bomb threat thing going on that I alluded to earlier. They weren't letting people in, but then they started letting people in. So I went inside, and I didn't really care to see the panel that was going on at the time. So I was wandering through the area where meet and greets were happening between content creators and attendees. And so I went and chatted with Bunty King. He was really nice. I had tweeted him before the event because he like posted like 4 pictures, like one from a long time ago and then a few from between now and then one from very recently. And I was like, oh my god, what a glow up. And so he remembered me from Twitter because he was like, oh, that was so nice of you. And I was like, how are your fans not saying nice things to you all the time? I don't understand. Like, me and my girlfriends like hype each other up all day long. So if I feel like if you have fans, people should be telling you that you glowed up every day. But I don't know. That's just me. If you follow Bunty King, be nicer to him. He doesn't get enough compliments, I don't think. And then so when we were talking, the evacuation thing happened, and they had us leave the building, and so we had to leave. And so in the crowd, we chit-chatted a little bit, and I got a selfie with him and Theron Mayer. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. And we got a selfie together. It was really cute. I posted it on my Twitter. And she was so nice and so gorgeous, and she had this beautiful like red floral dress that she looked so regal in, so fabulous. And then so after I chatted with them for a little while, I ran into anti-feminist Karen again, and I talked to her after her debate, and she told us a story about like her dad and his childhood and what he was like, and we talked about corporal punishment in schools. And I'm pretty anti-corporal punishment personally. That's just what we were talking about, like the group that I was with and her were talking about. That was before I had left for lunch though. So back to where I was actually in the story. After we had to evacuate the building, I was talking to Karen and some of her friends, and we were sitting by the picnic tables talking about, she was telling me how she feels like the feminist Karen that she was discussing with at the panel is a minority of feminists. And like, she has a point, because the fact that she was willing to come to Mythcon says something about her. It says that she is open to opposing viewpoints and things like that, which the feminists that Karen argue against are not necessarily. Ugh, my mom's gonna come talk to me. Oh no, she didn't. Okay, cool. I was like, no, please don't ruin the vibe of the video. Anyway, and so Karen was saying how she feels like that woman is more minority. And I mean, like, I think that it's one of those situations where the people who are extreme are also the most vocal, and so the more quote-unquote reasonable feminists also don't feel the need to speak up the way that the more extreme ones do. And so I don't know, I kind of disagree with Karen on that. I think that the person she debated is actually pretty representative of most real life feminists, not just like pop internet feminists. But whatever, I agree to disagree. And then I wandered off on my own, and I made friends with this couple who I had seen the girl earlier at Mythcon because she had these really cute dimple piercings that I complimented. So I was talking to them, and then we decided to get lunch together at the same restaurant I had already gone to lunch. It was really dinner, actually, meal 2 of the day. And after lunch, or during lunch, it was so much fun. She and I talked about YouTube and all the people we follow, and we both have a lot of shared interests, and she studies, I want to say sociology, and so that was really nice to get to talk to someone who has similar interests as me and who actually studies that kind of stuff, because I don't study sociology, so I don't have an academic perspective necessarily the way she might. So that was very interesting. And after that, her boyfriend wasn't attending the conference, he was just there with her this weekend. So she and I went back to the conference together, and we wandered a little bit, and we went into the tail end of a panel where, oh my gosh, I forgot to, okay. So very early on in the day, when I went to Will Call, I ran into this guy who has this really cute maxi skirt, and I recognized the maxi skirt immediately because I have that same maxi skirt. I got it at Target. And so I'm like, dude, I have that maxi skirt. And he's like, thanks. Because he thought I said I love his maxi skirt. But no, I was just saying I have it. I mean, I do love it, but that's not what I was saying. So, So later I saw him and I was like, hey man, I just wanted to tell you, like, I have that maxi skirt. Like, I do love it, but that's not what I was trying to tell you. I have it too. And he was like, oh my gosh, you got it at did you get a Target? And I'm like, yep, Massimo. And so we bonded over the skirt, our matching skirts. And he was a super nice guy, and we chit-chatted some. And then later, so when I'm with my friend that I made, the girl with the dimple piercings that I went to lunch with, so she and I wandered into a panel, and lo and behold, there's skirt guy speaking at the panel, and I was like, oh shit, I didn't know that was a speaker. And so that was kind of funny. And turns out he's actually one of the more like progressive, liberal, like feminists who was there. Someone that I align with probably a little bit more politically, although I wouldn't say 100%. I haven't watched his YouTube videos yet to know what I think about that. But that was funny. And so he and I hung out like a decent amount last night. Also with this girl, I want to say her name was Meredith. I texted her to confirm. Well, I texted her to find out her social media, but getting her social media will also tell me her name. So 2 birds, 1 stone. We're gonna call her super awesome girl for now, in case her name isn't Meredith. I feel like it was, but it might. I met multiple really awesome people, so I can't keep track. Because Meredith could have been the name of the girl with the dimple piercings. I just don't know. I'm so bad with names. That's why, yeah, I'm just gonna be using nicknames, I think, for the most part. Where's I going with this? So she and I watched the panel on trans issues together, and we were up pretty close to the front. And I got to ask a question, which was fun. I kind of like, I didn't ask the question I meant to ask because I was like thinking about stuff in the line, and the person in front of me made me think of something else. And then so I said something about like, because people were asking Blair, like, oh, do you feel bad about being a token, yada yada, like the conservatives, they just use you to be a token, Blair White. And I'm like, I mean, even if, let's say they do use her as a token, let's just accept that as fact without arguing about if that's true or not. Like, is that inherently bad? Like, could she not just also be using them to, like, grow her platform and get herself heard and get herself out there so that more people know who she is? Like, I feel like it's very weirdly, like, paternal to be like, oh, they're just using you. Like, what if she's using them? Like, you don't know. I don't know. So I asked a question. I was like, do you feel like it's always a bad thing to be a token? Like, if it expands your platform and gets your voice out there, like, is that a bad thing? And someone was like, no, definitely not. And I was like, cough, cough, Ben Shapiro. And like, I'm in a crowd of people who really like Ben Shapiro, so no one said anything. But then I hear, like, I actually didn't hear anything, but like later I talked to June, aka Shoe on Head. And she told me that, she was like, are you the one who said the thing about Ben Shapiro? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, oh my God, that was so funny. We were clapping. I think we were the only ones clapping. So I was so glad that at least one person in the crowd appreciated my, my little jab there at him. Cause he totally, whatever, doesn't matter. Anyway. And then I also asked, like, you know, like, I've been on birth control, like, since I was like a teenager, and like, no one's worried about me getting cancer. So like, why are people so concerned with trans kids taking hormone replacement therapy if they are working with a doctor and have been medically diagnosed and are following all of the best practices? Like, I just, like, because they're like, oh, well, what about cancer and long-term health risks? We just don't know, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, you haven't asked these questions about other hormonal therapies that people have been taking forever. Like, why are you suddenly worried about it? Like, what's different? You know, what's different about this situation? You know, and it's like, so I was asking, like, do you think that those people, like, do they really care about trans kids? Like, and then I made the point, I was like, I think most of the people here are asking in good faith questions like this, but outside of this kind of scenario, I feel like it's not necessarily good faith. Like, I don't know. What do you think? And so it was really interesting. They made the point to me, like, yeah, like putting, I'm still using your phone. Zach's walking downstairs, so I have to stop talking to myself. Hazy, do you want to go inside? I think Zach's freaking around. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I'm just gonna go back to talking to myself. My brother's still here, but I don't care anymore. Gosh, I don't know where I was. Oh, I think I was talking about my question that I asked Blair. Yeah, that's where I was. So yeah, oh yeah, and I said how like June thought it was funny. So that was awesome. And then after the trans panel, the trans issues panel, was Sargon of Akkad and Dr. something, Richard Carrier. And they were, oh, one second, I have to message my friend back. Sorry, I was getting distracted. Anyway, so yeah, it was Sargon of Akkad, which is Carl Benjamin is his name, and Richard Carrier were debating. I don't even know what they were debating, honestly. They were just like not responding to each other, what the other person was actually saying, and like Sargon of Akkad was just like, Sargon of Akkad was just like in attack mode and like being very just more aggressive than usual, and Richard was just kind of like letting Sargon like get out his anger. You know, he was just kind of like allowing Sargon of Akkad to make himself look like however you interpreted that to have gone. Some people probably thought he won. A lot of us might not have. But overall, it was just like the moderator lost control, and I don't know if anybody could have had control of that conversation, because at least one of the participants was not interested in a conversation. He was interested in trying to own the other person. And so it was just kind of like, you know, Richard Carrier did his best, but you can't have a productive conversation with someone who's not trying to have a productive conversation with you, right? So, and that's just my take on it. And then so I left that probably like halfway through. I was just like, this isn't helpful. And I'm honestly, my anxiety levels were getting so high by the end of the day from all the new people I'd met, and just all like even the day before had been pretty, like, because when you're in a new city, it's just going to raise your anxiety levels. When you're sleeping in not your own bed, it's going to raise your anxiety, especially if you are like me and you deal with that often. And so I was like, you know, I got to leave. I feel like I'm going to crawl out of my skin. I can't be here anymore. So I left, got an Uber back to my hotel, went to my room, took a shower, laid down, and I just could not chill. My heart was pounding out of my chest, and my stomach was hurting, and I was like,